I'm done, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Hirono?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Koh, I think it's really wonderful that your entire family is here, and I'm sure your father would be very proud of you. And thank you for sharing your mother's story, because it says a lot about you, I'd say. I do start all of my questions of nominees to any of the committees on which I sit, the following two questions. Since you became a legal adult, have you ever made unwanted requests for sexual favors or committed any verbal or physical harassment or assault of a sexual nature?
No.
Have you ever faced discipline or entered into a settlement related to this kind of conduct?
No.
Judge Koh, I want to thank you for the extensive discussion we had regarding the Tandon decision, which was a recent Supreme Court decision, wasn't it, this year?
Yes, it was this year.
Okay. So it's very clear that when you made your decision in that case, you were following precedent at that time, which is why the Ninth Circuit sustained your decision, even if one of the judges on the Ninth Circuit was a Trump nominee, a Trump judge, I'd say, and then why Chief Justice Roberts, in his dissent, supported the Ninth Circuit's sustainment of your decision. You've made that very clear. As far as I can tell, the tentative decision of the Supreme Court says to me that it opens the door for the argument that anytime somebody doesn't like a governmental restriction, they can argue that it interferes with their religious free assembly. Because the standard that the court set up for overcoming that kind of argument is extremely high, and I don't even know how that is, anyone can meet that kind of burden, but I'll set that aside. In National Urban League v. Ross, you enjoined the Commerce Department and Census Bureau from implementing the 2020 Census Replan, a plan adopted on August 3rd, 2020 that shortened key census data collection and processing dates. And it makes a really big difference when the time of the taking of the census is shortened in this way. And you specifically mentioned the paucity of the administrative record and found defendants had failed to consider important aspects of the problem, consider alternatives, articulate satisfactory explanations, or consider reliance interests. Ultimately, the Supreme Court decided to stay your order granting a preliminary injunction. And the Supreme Court's decision this ruling was issued as a shadow docket ruling, so we don't know what that they may have disagreed with in your decision, and in fact, we really have no idea what their legal rationale was for granting a stay. Isn't that correct?
Well, there was only one dissenting opinion. There was no opinion granting
Yes, so
the stay.
that's what happens in a shadow docket ruling. So although the stay was granted while litigation continued, what was the effect of the ruling? So the stay allowed the government to end the census count immediately, a decision that probably could not have been undone given the tight deadlines and practical difficulties. So what was the effect of this ruling? Can you discuss that a little bit?
Well, I don't know what the effect of the ruling was, but I can tell you what happened in the case is that originally the Census Bureau took almost 10 years to come up with a plan to do data collection, data processing. They did about 8 surveys. They consulted with statisticians, demographers, economists to try to get the best plan together. They put one together, but because of COVID, they had to stop field operations. And one of the big issues was the reliance interest of all the Census Bureau partners. And they went out and they advertised at food banks, on bus station shelters. This is the deadline to get your information, your census questionnaire in. And so if you keep changing the date, it's impossible for these partners of the Census Bureau to continue to keep telling people, October 30th, 1st is the new date. No, September 30th is the due date. No, October 5th is the due date. No, October 15th is the due date. It takes a lot of time and money for the Bureau partners to get that information out. And the constant shifting of the deadline makes it just harder for people to know when the deadline is and to be counted.
And I say, therefore, it makes it much harder for us to obtain an accurate census count if people are confused and all of that. And this is only one example of the Trump administration trying to really shorten or influence the kind of people who would participate in the census, because they also tried to put in a citizenship question. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Hirono. We have Senator Hawley, Booker, and Tillis.
Thank you, Mr.